So, dear friends, we are almost on the eve of Lenten season. And the Lenten season is a very powerful season for all of us. Perhaps it helps us to go back a little. I would say to put one step behind, but two steps ahead. Because as much as we can evaluate our life, analyze it, reflect over it, surely we will be able to go ahead. We need some space in our life. We say that when you are sitting, you have to leave some little space. You can't be constricted as such. So also we need some time. If everything is running and hurry-burry, perhaps we'll be restless. We need some space. We need some time. We need to also save our energy. And for all these things, the Lenten season is the best season in a spiritual way in order to renew ourselves, and physically also perhaps it also helps us to reorganize our life in some way. Let me start with the message of this week. The Gospel of the week and the other readings are beautiful today. The Gospel is a very ancient and a very, I would say, perhaps one of the best lessons of life that we can learn from these temptations of Jesus. The three temptations we call them. And you see the timing of the devil. He knows that Jesus is hungry after having fasted for 40 days in the desert, and is the best time to tempt him. On the other hand, these temptations are considered as perhaps the temptations of the whole world, of all the people. All the temptations or the evil in the world can be summarized in these three evil temptations, or perhaps certain promptings of the evil spirit. And so these three temptations are very interesting. The first temptation is what's called the temptation of the bread, that the devil asked Jesus to make or to convert these stones into bread, and you can eat them because you are hungry. But then this temptation is not so simple as only bread. It speaks for all the needs of our body, soul and mind. What we can see, the things that pass away. We speak of the perishable things. Last Sunday we had that beautiful reading to say that make a distinction between the perishable and the imperishable. The imperishable. And so Jesus stresses what is the imperishable. Man does not live by bread alone, but everything that comes from the mouth of God. Even in the first reading of Deuteronomy, there is also that beautiful, in the letter of the Romans, the first reading speaks about the fruits of the earth that we try and trust to God, because ultimately our life depends on Him. Romans chapter 10 speaks of the word is near you, in your mouth and in your heart. You trust in the Lord and you get everything. Everyone who believes in Him will not be put to shame. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will not be saved. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in Him, believe in your heart that God raised Him up from the dead, you will be saved. So Jesus silences the devil with His words, man does not live on bread alone, but every word that comes from the mouth of God. The second temptation is a little more subtle. The devil takes Jesus on a high, perhaps a mountain, and he says, see the kingdom of the earth, there are so many beautiful kingdoms here, and all belong to Him. It's a big lie that he says, all belong to me. And therefore, if you bow and adore me, I shall give everything to you. I shall give everything to you. And Jesus replies and says, you shall worship the Lord your God alone, and Him alone you shall worship. This temptation is called of what's called the idols. The idols. We have so many priorities in our life. There are so many things that are important for us. There are so many things that we consider indispensable. I would not be able to live without them. I would not be able to live without money, without a house, without a car, perhaps without my children and family also. But then God says, God comes before. All these are what we call idols. You know what's an idol? Idol is something of beautiful, perhaps an image made out of stone, out of gold, but lifeless. Lifeless. And therefore, we go after these lifeless things. Once again, the thought of imperishable and perishable. And Jesus says, worship the Lord alone. In Him you can trust, and trust totally in Him. The third temptation is also perhaps a very interesting one. Jesus is taken to the pinnacle of the temple, and He says, if you sort of throw yourself down, you will be proving yourself to all the people very much to say that you are the Son of God. Nothing will happen to you because the angels will come and lift you. On the other hand, people will say that you are really a big miracle worker. What we want today is miracles. We don't want simple things, but we want miracles. You know, unfortunately, we priests and religious also, perhaps we teach this miracles. Miracles will happen. Miracles are there to happen, but not when you want, not when you wish. And our God is not something like a magic, but His will is more important for us. So therefore what we try to say is, the devil tries to say is, that these ordinary things do not matter. But you do something extraordinary. You ask God to change your life. You ask God to say that you don't want this, but you want that. If only my husband could improve. If only my wife could improve. If only my children could study hard. We are asking for miracles. Perhaps God can give miracles. But then on the other hand, to submit ourselves to the will of God, that's more important. And therefore, Jesus tells the devil, do not test your God. Do not lead God to a temptation as such, because you can't trust Him. You can't test Him. And therefore, perhaps our life consists in entrusting ourselves or perhaps surrendering ourselves to God. It's a beautiful thought that the first Sunday of Lent gives us, that ultimately God matters. And the Lenten season is to check if really God lives, and God lives in our life. Because there are so many things that are crowded. You know, our tables are cluttered with so many things. We need to remove, we need to clean up and say that this is the most important thing of my life. The second is a beautiful sort of exercise that we have to find out, what we call the best practices for the Lenten season. You know, the Lenten season, the best practice that, or the best sort of advice that is given to us, directive that is given us, what we say in 3 words: prayer, fasting and penance, and almsgiving. They are the 3 things that have been told to us. But somehow, you know, our Lenten season is very negative. Sometimes people say, a Lent season has come, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, we have to do penance, we have to do the way of the cross. We see it in such a negative way that all the joy or the juice of it is removed altogether. But the Lenten season can be a positive season. That what I have seen in a negative way, perhaps I can do it in a positive way. For example, fasting is good. Fasting from food is good. And fortunately or unfortunately, for us fasting doesn't mean much, because we eat in the morning, we eat a little in the afternoon, we eat something in the evening. You know, our Muslim brothers and sisters are also doing this month of fasting. They call it Ramadan. And a complete, almost a 12-hour of fast with nothing taken, even a drop of water that they take it. But our fasting is much more simple. But then many people are superstitious of this, that I have to do this fasting. If I forget and perhaps eat something, it's going to be a big thing. But maybe we can do many other fasts which are more difficult and which would be more satisfying to the God, to our Lord itself. For example, being negative always, being critical always. Instead of that, if I say a kind word to somebody, it would mean much. Then discontent. I'm always discontent. What is this? There is no seat. The bus is not on time. My table is not made properly. I have not taken breakfast. There is more salt here. Arre baapre. We see that so many things we are discontent. On the other hand, if we perhaps be grateful, grateful. Sometimes I saw a small film. The husband loves his wife. He's a new bride. And he doesn't want to criticize her. And one day she prepares something, puts a lot of salt in it. The salt in it. And the husband says, so he says, so nicely you have prepared. And he goes. And then later on the wife tries to eat it and she says, full of salt. How did my husband ever eat it? Or perhaps he said, thank you, and grateful he was. Perhaps that is the Lenten season. Also, pessimism. Nothing will happen. This will not change. I will not be able to do this. Or perhaps you can never change. So many things we say. Instead, hope. This is the year of hope. You say that perhaps something may be possible. Why not? Let's try it. Let's not give up. So also tensions. So many tensions. The children have exams. You have to go for an interview. You have your stock market is falling. So many tensions and tensions. Leave it to the Lord. Prayers. Leave it to the Lord. Lord, you know my situation. I leave it to you. God can take care. I always remember that sleeping statue of St. Joseph. How beautifully he goes to sleep. He says, God, you have given me a family, you have given me a son, you have given me a wife, but this is yours. You take care of them. I will go to sleep. And he sleeps well. He sleeps well because he trusts in God, that God also controls our life. So therefore, I would say tensions, bitterness. Sometimes people are so bitter. They hold that rancor in their heart. There's no perhaps to say that he did this, he did that, he betrayed me, he took me, he did this. On the other hand, joy. Okay, you did that to me. But perhaps if I was in your place, I don't think I could have done better. There's a person who came and complained to me that a person took the loan, a big loan, and he said so many things that I would give you, I would do this, I would do that, but he defaulted and he was not paying the loan. And this person, perhaps I told them, was he able to give the loan? He said, no, he suffered a loss. So then what can you do? What can you do? But accept it. So also we speak about what's called complaints. Some people are complaining from beginning to end. There's a list of complaints. You did this, you didn't do this, you didn't bring this, you didn't flowers. The day of what we call the Valentine's Day. You didn't wish me, you didn't bring flowers to me. So many complaints. And then perhaps we can say that simple things of life. Instead, simple things are okay. Every time we don't have to say thank you. Every time we don't have to say, perhaps it's good to say. But if you have not said, that doesn't mean that you are ungrateful to me. Maybe there are simple things of life. Selfishness, everything for me. This space is for me. This time is for me. You have come late. You have not given. Selfish. Instead of that, perhaps kind of compassion. When they say when you start complaining that you don't have shoes, perhaps look at that picture of a person who doesn't have legs. You need to have compassion for the others. So therefore, this is a very positive way of looking at Lenten season, and the best practices could be just to do things better, just to do things in a different way. And maybe these 40 days will also be very meaningful to us. They need not be so strictly as fasting and prayer, and sometimes they don't have much meaning of it. So therefore, let us do meaningful activities also in the Lenten season. The third one is pilgrimage to the Holy Land. The news that comes these days is a good news that there is some sort of reconciliation or a peace treaty or truce, as it were, between Israel and Hamas, the Palestinians. And the Palestine, as we know, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and all these holy places depend very much on the economy of tourism. You can imagine the war means is destruction of life for them. They have nothing else. They don't have big factories and etc. They need also to be. And for us, our pilgrimage to the Holy Land is the highest thing that we can think of. Is the best thing that we can think of. So therefore, it's meaningful to go to Holy Land. And this is the year of the Jubilee. We have said also year of the pilgrimages. And there are people perhaps who can plan small pilgrimages to Holy Land, go there. And it's a meditation of life. It's a walk on the footsteps of Jesus. There's that beautiful way of the cross that they do from the first station till Calvary, till the tomb of Jesus. And everything is very meaningful. Therefore, I encourage more and more people to go to the Holy Land. And since the things are opening up, in fact, the Israel embassy has also is having a meeting with us here in the Archbishop's house as to how the pilgrims can be connected, how the pilgrims can go, and what are the difficulties if there are there, how they can be solved, etc. And therefore, I also encourage the people to plan ahead. Don't take it, just now I have to go, next month I have to go. No, you plan it nicely, save some money and make a nice trip to Holy Land. Fourthly, 8th of March. It's a beautiful day, and 8th of March is internationally kept up as the Women's Day. And therefore, we also, half the humanity is the women. Someone tells me the percentage of women is making less. In India, for every 1,000 males, there's supposed to be something like 930 or 940 females. That means the females are becoming less, or rather that we are making them less. We are seeing to it that they don't have birth at all. So therefore they are perhaps even poisoned or made to die even before they are born. This is called selective process of the birth as such, and in this selection we select the male as such. So therefore this particular day is to be kept up, first of all, to explain that we not only need women are human. They have their rights, they have their dignity, and this is what we have to go on stressing, because the more and more things seem to be negative or not in favor of women. The amount of rapes, the amount of abortions, the amount of the threats to women, and the amount of sort of loss of dignity for women makes us realize that perhaps we, even in this age of 2025, we consider them as second-class citizens. So therefore we have to start this, first of all, in our own families. In our own families, we are blessed with mothers, we are blessed with sisters, we are blessed with aunts, perhaps the others also women. So try to perhaps connect with them, respect them and love them. Perhaps it's better to ask, when did this day start? As far as I know, it started in 1910, when a certain lady called Clara Zetkin, she proposed the idea of the International Women's Day. But in 1917, perhaps some years later, the International Women's started being celebrated after the Russian women went on strike in 1917. Sometimes you get things only after you do your strike, after you do your protests. So women had to protest for their rights, and Lenin, the premier of Russia, is supposed to have conceded for the first time, and so it was started being celebrated in 1917. In India, they say that Sarojini Naidu, she was a poet, she was a political leader, she was a freedom fighter, and therefore the women's liberation, or the Women's Day, International Day for India, started with this woman who brought a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding of the rights of women. So what could be the slogan for women? I am told the slogan that has been chosen for this year is moving forward together. Women moving forward together. And the slogan also sort of has in itself to say that empower the women, empower the world. Empowering the women is like empowering the world. We have that beautiful saying by which we men are snubbed a little, because you teach a man, he teaches another man. You teach a woman, she teaches a generation. She teaches a generation. So therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, we as a church also celebrate this day, and I'm sure that churches, the women in the church also will take up this day for some sort of celebration, a gathering of themselves, a little of recognition, and programs that stress the importance of women. Remember that women are always epitome of courage, hope, and life. I take another topic now. The exams are coming closer. There are many children who are preparing. I think the PUC exams are going on. Soon the SSLC exams also will start, and perhaps the degree and the other courses also. And of course, everyone gets scared of the exams. We can't say that we are so brave that I can go for exams. There is a little fear, there's a little doubt, there's a little suspense in the exams, however much you may have prepared. I normally say three things. Number one is prepare well. Prepare well. The exams should not trouble us at the exam season. If you are prepared in time, surely at the time of the exams, you are prepared for it. Secondly, after you are prepared, be cool. Be cool. Or rather, I would say, leave it to God. You have done your best. You can't do anything. I see some people last moment mugging and rushing and pushing and this one and that thing and this question, that question, and your brain is full of so many questions and answers that at the time of exam, you won't do the right thing, you won't write. Keep cool. Keep cool. I even say that that day perhaps you see a nice movie also, perhaps go to the church, relax a little so that you can be so. And thirdly, leave it in the hands of God. Leave it in the hands. As a Christians, we believe that God wants good from us. And sometimes, even if you have not done good, that also is a lesson. Failures are, they say, the biggest lessons are the failures. The failures teach us much more than our success. Therefore, even if you have, after you have done so much, after being cool, you have not done well in the exams, you got low marks, etc., okay, leave it in the hands of God. So therefore, this is what we say. I would like to add something more for those who are graduates, those who are studying PUC, those who are doing graduate studies, that in our Archdiocese we have started, or rather we are just opening up, that our children need to be doctors, need to be nurses, need to be teachers, engineers, and so many other things, but also for civil services. Civil services, at one time, our Christian community had a lot of officers. There was the IAS officer, there was the judge, there was a Tashildar, and so many others. We were a minority, and that time perhaps not in the education was not much. But today we have the best of Christian education. We get the best of education, and therefore, but then it is focused or focalized on certain aspects of education. For example, health, medicine, and engineering, the atomic, the electronic, etc. These are good. I'm not saying they are not good. There are some also who are making plans to go abroad. There are some plans making perhaps to go for higher studies. Okay, why not serve the country? Why not serve our people? And the best service, of course, the defense, to be an army officer, to be in the navy, it's the best things, and also civil services. In our Archdiocese, we have opened a small hub, as it were, of what's called the Civil Services Center, and we encourage the students, and we will also be supporting those students who would like to write the IAS and IPS exams, undergo also the course training, etc. We will surely be supporting them. And we also, perhaps not only the graduates are the ones who are eligible to write the IAS, IPS exams, what we call the entrance or the first exams, but we can remotely prepare from the PUC onwards. So we also will be calling those who are interested and tell them in what aspects or perhaps what subjects you should be specializing in your graduation if you have in mind the civil services. Little more remote, we are also going to have a little of sort of an exam or IQ test, the intelligence test for the 8th, ninth, and 10th students. If their parents are interested, if the children are interested, distantly to prepare for these IAS exams, perhaps we can even tell you how it is. So therefore, I place it in mind. We have this small sort of placard put there, which will help you to guide you the numbers that are given there in order to prepare remotely for the competitive exams in this way for IAS and IPS and the other civil services. My last is a very interesting jewel of the Archdiocese. Jewel of the Archdiocese. And in this year, as you know, we have been taking the jewels that are especially going to be exposed this year. For example, the churches, the pilgrim churches in our Archdiocese. We have already spoken about the cathedral, the Infant Jesus Shrine, the St. Mary's Basilica. Soon we will be speaking about Harobale also. And today I speak about what we call the Miraculous Mother of Mine Shrine, Urgum in KGF. It's interesting that this particular mine, or perhaps the gold comes out of the soil, as it were, and Mother Mary, we sort of ask her intercession very specially, not only to be a gold statue, a gold to be had, but to protect the people and to give the people perhaps a future direction as to how to go. And therefore this particular shrine is a shrine among the many shrines in our Archdiocese, is a very special shrine in KGF. You know what is KGF? Kolar Gold Fields. Since 1880, a certain Britisher called John Taylor is supposed to have come, and from that time onwards there's a lot of research of the soil, the testing and these things, and they found that the KGF site had the best gold mines, and therefore the mining started from there. But then the real mining took place after some years, and they found out that about 3 kilometers area had these gold mine, the soil that was there, that was rich in minerals of gold. So therefore, the mining started. In the beginning, perhaps it was started in a small way, but slowly when it went to a bigger, this one, more and more people from England came there, more and more foreigners were there, and at one time KGF was also called the Little England. Little England, even today we have those churches and streets, the Champion Reef, and the other places are named by the British names as such, because these were the places the Britishers came. But by and large, as days passed, as years passed, the mines became a very dangerous place. These mines of KGF are supposed to be one of the deepest mines that go up to almost 10 kilometers, perhaps even more than that. And these are so dangerous, dark, and many of times there is no place to perhaps to be survived properly. And therefore for the people it became a sign of anxiety. They could not give up the mines because that was their sole bread and butter, the sole income that they would, sole salary that they would get. But at the same time, every time they went down in the mines, perhaps they must have prayed very much. Will I ever come up? Will I ever survive? And we are told almost 6,000 people died in these mines. You can imagine perhaps someday if they dig up, they find 6,000 skeletons there of people who have died. Of course, some of them were brought up, etc. But this was the fear. Besides that, the mine work also, the mine atmosphere also was very not healthy. Because they had to clean up the mines, they used what's called certain acids, certain sulfuric and the other type of acids that were used. Sodium cyanide was used, and this is dangerous for health. The people who breathed it, had what called respiratory diseases. The lungs were collapsing, and many people died in their young age, 30s, 40s, because they could not control. And at one time, someone told me that the highest number of widows in the Archdiocese was in the place of mines of KGF itself. And so in this background, In this background, everyone looked out for someone who could save us, who could perhaps give us a little consolation, give us courage, give us hope. And so perhaps it started, we are told that devotion at the Our Lady of Mines Church started not by Christians, but a woman, a Hindu woman called Rangamal. She was a devotee of Our Lady, and it seems she used to go walking to Velankani, and in her last trip, she brought a statue, a small statue of Mother of Velankani, and she placed it there and built a small hut. Small hut. People started going there, coming there, etc. But in 1945, it seems there was a British officer who was very angry. It's a British land that was considered British property. Even today, it is considered as property that belongs to the mines. We cannot possess this. Most of our churches are on lease land. So therefore, this British officer went and destroyed that thing and said, nothing doing, you should not be here, etc. Legend says that he was blinded. He became blind. And when he became blind, he realized his mistake and asked Mother Mary for forgiveness, and he was restored of his sight. And this miracle that the British officer was restored of his sight became so public that everywhere the people started speaking. More and more people started coming to the place, and slowly what was a hut, Father Balaya by name. Father Balaya is known very much in our diocese for so many of the shrines and the other things. The Infant Jesus shrine started with him. He was also in Our Lady of Basilica, Mother Mary Basilica. He was also in so many places. And he also, as the parish priest of Champion Reef, took interest in this small hut chapel, as it were. And he started his ministry as such. And I am told that this particular woman, Rangmal, also became a Christian. And the first shrine that was started was called Thangavayalin Thangathai. A small sort of pilgrim center was started at that time. The name of Father Solomon is also mentioned very much because he is the one also to build the new church. Before that, on 3rd April 1971, the first chapel or small church was built, and we are told Reverend Father P.J. Gratian, who was the apostolic administrator, laid the foundation. Within a year or so, the statue from Kerala was brought, a bigger statue was brought and kept there, blessed by Archbishop Swami. And not only that, the Mother Mary statue kept and venerated at Kurusedi the miners began to come and to pray to Mother Mary very specially for their security and safety. And so from now on, we can say that the Mother Mary was their support, was their courage to go into the mines, come up. The families prayed together for their husbands, for their fathers, that God may protect them, etc. A few more details about the historical dates of this shrine. 1973, a small brochure explaining this particular shrine was made public, and perhaps because of this brochure, people came to know from all over, especially people of Bangalore. And so 13 October 1973, a shrine bell was brought all the way from Nagarkoil, and it was installed by Archbishop Swami, the late Archbishop. On 5th October 1974, Thangathai Education Society was started, perhaps the school also, and the foundation for that was laid by the Archbishop of Hyderabad, Archbishop Arulappa of Hyderabad. And as I said, Father John Solomon was also very much part of this church, and he started the new church in 1987. It was completed in 1992 and inaugurated by Archbishop Matthias. The feast is traditionally celebrated on the second Sunday of September. Perhaps, 8th of September is a feast for Bangalore, Melancholy and all the places, and people may have realized that they would not come there on that day itself, so they have graciously shifted it to 2nd of September, and therefore perhaps the feast is celebrated very grandly, and so many people, lakhs of people come there. The priests who have served there in the past, at least in my memory, Father Arokyadas, and also Father Arokyadas, who is now in Infant Jesus. The other Arokyadas father is in what we call the Church of St. John Mary Vianney, and the present parish priest, Father Jai Kiran, is a man who believes not only in God but believes in good works, and his good life, his honesty, his integrity, especially to not only to make the shrine grow but also care for more and more people. He has been there from last 1 year, and I visited him recently, and I saw that the chapels looks not only clean and cleared up of many other things, but also he has got a lot of plans for him, and surely I said I would support him in all his good works. I also appreciate that this is this year a small pilgrim center for us, and for people of Bangalore perhaps it would be an occasion to pray to Mother Mary, not only for mines and gold, but also for our safety and security, which is very important for us, especially in Bangalore. When we travel, we find ourselves so much in difficulty. The accidents, so many accidents, our children have to be protected. Mother Mary will surely do this for us. I wish you a good, and I would say a happy Lenten season.
The Shepherd's Voice, which is being presented by our beloved Archbishop, Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, the Archbishop of Bangalore, who takes so much of interest and concern in order to bring the various topics, the contextual aspects, in order to inform, educate, and catechize all of us, the priests, the religious, and faithful of this vast archdiocese. And I'm sure you are enjoying this program, Shepherd's Voice, and I request each one of you to share with your other colleagues, friends, and family and relatives, near and dear ones, so that everyone in this archdiocese can be more closer to listen to the Archbishop on this Shepherd's Voice, the weekly feature. My dear friends, as I've always told, that this is a wonderful platform wherein we can connect to the shepherd of this archdiocese, wherein he brings in the interesting topics in order to increase our devotion and love towards God, and also to know the spiritual matters that concerns our faith. In a very special way, you are most welcome to ask your questions, queries, and you can send them to us at archdblr@gmail.com, and you will also see our mobile number in and through which you can connect with our media center, Ave Studios, and the Archdiocesan Communication Center. Please do write to us your feedback, your opinions. Thank you. Continue to watch and continue to share with others.